This is Ephraim with the Radical Hospitality Podcast, where we talk about architecture, development, and hospitality. Today we have a unique guest where we're going to switch gears a little bit and talk about what it takes to accomplish big dreams and hard things. So I've got Luke Pesk with me today. He is a local 16-year-old adventurer and has just completed the Colorado Trail, which is a 486-mile trek. My son and I, Titus, got to join him for a short bit of the trip, and I just wanted to bring him on today to just talk about his adventure, what it took to plan this trip out and to accomplish such a big goal. Welcome, Luke.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming out. So first of all, like if we could just start with, why don't you tell me a little bit, who you are and, what got in your head to do this long trail?
Yeah, the start of the idea for doing the CT was probably a few years ago when I was a little bit younger. I read a lot of books about, my dad was kind of into the PCT for a while and got some books about it and some maps and stuff. And I think I got something about CDT from the library. Kind of the CDT became this idea and dream of mine. And I started, thinking about doing it about probably a year before today. That kind of slowly morphed into, that's such a big project, right? It's like, that's not really something I'm going to do in the short term soon. But I was like, well, why don't I do something a little bit shorter? So around 6 months ago, probably, I had the idea to maybe try the JMT, the Job Near Trail, which is about 260 miles, I think. My dad, Tony, who's done he's done the CT on bike, and he presented the idea of, well, how about instead of the JMT, you just go to the Colorado Trail? And that's basically where the whole project started from.
So just go do the Colorado Trail. So yeah, I just want to phrase this for anybody out there. Like, the Colorado Trail, 450 miles. How long did that take?
It took 30 days.
30 days. Most of us think about going for an afternoon hike in a couple of miles and we get done at the end of the day and we're worn. So like no small feat, not just hey, let's do that instead. But this is a pretty major project. And, especially gotta say for like Luke, somebody at like 16-year-old to say, I'm going to go and figure this thing out. So, did you ever feel that way that this was too big, or was it, hey, my dad did this, maybe I could do this? Like, what kind of gave you the confidence that you could get this done?
There are certainly moments where the scale of it hits you, but I'd say in general, you don't feel the scale as much on a regular basis while you're doing it, while you're preparing. You just kind of think about what's the next goal, what's the next break, what's the next camp spot. And you just have to break it down into small little pieces and do it one step at a time. I think for me, I had an injury to my leg about 5 weeks before starting the trail. And I definitely went into the trail with the mentality of I might not finish this. Like this could flare up and just not happen this year. And so there was definitely a sense of just, having some faith and, praying that I'm going to make it through.
Yeah. So I love that about like just breaking it down and taking one step at a time. I know because I got invited in, you had a pretty massive plan put together on how to break this down and accomplish this. Talk a little bit about, what that planning process and what actual plan looked like when you had that put together.
So if you're ever planning to do one of these big long trails, spreadsheets are definitely your friend. It was pretty much just a spreadsheet was the plan. And we basically said, okay, so it's the trails, it's one big trail, but they divided it into 28 different sections. They vary great in length. Some of them are only like 10 miles long, and some of them are, the longest one's section 6, I think is about 32 or 33 miles. But if you average them, they're about 18 miles a segment. Okay. So that's about where I wanted my daily average to be. And we figured, okay, well, 28 segments, let's just plan on 28 days of hiking and then 2 rest days, which is what we ended up doing 30 days. We put in the spreadsheet, just like, here's all the segments, here's mileages, here's the elevation gain. And then we think, okay, how many days do I need to get from, my first resupply was Kenosha Pass, basically. So how long do I need to get from Denver to Kenosha Pass? Divide that up and then say, okay, I'm going to get a resupply here. How many days is that? How many calories do I need to resupply? The same thing going all the way down. But yeah, just having a spreadsheet with everything written out, it breaks it down and you're like, okay, maybe I can do this, right? You can see the plan step by step.
And so, you broke it down. You said, all right, here's the miles that we're going to tackle each day. Which, by the way, 18 miles, I did 2 days of 15 and a day of 20. The 15 were probably some of the hardest hiking I've ever done. I was like, man, there's no way we're going to do 20. And barely crawled through on the last 20 on the 3 days.
That's awesome.
And so to do that every single day, again, 18 miles a day, it's a, carrying you were carrying 30-pound pack.
Closer to 20, but
20.
Yeah, 20 to 27, 20, depending on how much
water carrying.
Yeah, water state there.
It's still a lot to pull on trails. So how did you know, or how did you plan out? Like you mentioned calories and food. You're out in the middle of the woods. How are you getting all that calories and foods and making sure you have the right amount, not too much weight?
Yeah, for me, I basically plan on 3,500 calories a day to have in the resupply boxes. And I don't know if I ended up consuming quite that much. Some resupply boxes, I would leave things behind. But it gives you that option to have enough that if you need to, you can just leave some if you ever brought to the resupply. But you plan your daily calorie amount and you have your dehydrated meals, and then you fill the rest in with, granola bars and snacks and random stuff. And I could have packed a little better on the food. I definitely didn't have enough good fats and carbs in there as I wanted to, but it was enough that it did the trick. Didn't go hungry. I think I lost 2 pounds the whole trip, so I was eating enough. It was a pretty simplistic approach to the food planning.
Yeah, and so what kind of food did that look like on a typical day?
A lot of those Nature Valley peanut butter biscuits and bars and stuff. I had probably a disproportionate amount of fruit snacks. I'm sure you guys saw me popping fruit snacks every 5 minutes. I brought one thing I wish I brought more was Lara bars. I had a couple Lara bars in my last resupply that were really good, and I wish I brought more of those for the trip.
You'd be hiking along the way for 3 days, and then magically food box would appear, and then you'd go another 3 days.
No, I bet.
So who's bringing this? How did you coordinate getting that along the way?
For me, that's one of the reasons I think my trip one system had such an awesome support crew of people. People like you guys, I think Brahmins and stuff. My grandparents supported me and my dad through the bottom third of the trail, basically. I had a lot of friends bringing me food supplies up in the more northern section trail.
Hey, if you're liking this interview so far, we would love for you to share this with your friends. And please leave a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to. This really helps us out a ton and helps other people like you find out about it as well. Now back to the episode. Kind of pulling this back into, our world of project planning and development. This is a hiking trip that I think you planned and, brought a team around better than most architects, developers, and builders in the way that you went ahead and you broke it down, you put together a full, this is a huge goal, dream. You took that and broke it down into small steps. You said, all right, here's how we're going to tackle each day. And then you said, all right, here's the milestones that we need to meet. Here is what we need for resupply and food. And then you said, okay, well, how are we going to do that? And you brought the right team in. So I love looking at this and saying, I see a project planner, project manager in your future, of some sort. You have to be able to take whatever your goal or vision was and take that and break it down into steps. I'd say, whatever you're looking at doing, that is the process. Back to the goal. This was a big enough goal that I assume this was pretty inspiring to do. You didn't go pick, hey, let's do Waterton Canyon. Right?
I do a lot of Waterton Canyon. About 500 miles of Waterton Canyon.
I do. So it's got to be something that's kind of inspirational. That big enough to motivate you to get behind it. And big enough to motivate other people to pull along the way. Those are some of the things that I see. What were some of the lessons that you learned in doing that?
Well, first of all, like I said, it's just amazing having a good crew of people help you. And, to give credit where credit is due, I think a lot of the logistics and stuff was helped greatly by my dad. He was a big part of the logistics with this. But as far as just lessons with getting things up, it's setting small goals and it's consistency. I think, it's 500 miles. It's easy to minimize that in the planning process and be like, oh, it's fine. See, I got a plan. I can do it. But then when you go out, you realize even hiking, that daily 18, that's your whole day. That's you're breaking that down, and that's a lot of mileage. And you'll get to the end of some, probably 6-7 days in, and you realize I've done all this and I'm only 6-7 days in.
Yeah.
But you get up every day and you just go and you hike the distance you need to hike. Eventually you end up in Durango, one way or another.
Yeah. So you were out there on the trail for 30 days, sometimes with people, sometimes solo. I'm sure there was a lot of challenges or hardships. What was some of the, tell us a trail story. What was one of the biggest things you had to overcome?
I was surprised, pleased, and disappointed all at the same time to say that I did not have the most eventful trip in terms of like horrible things happening to me, which I think overall was a good thing. We were very blessed with weather and, you know, just general things. Things went pretty well. But we did have one storm in San Juan's that was a little bit scary. It was after San Luis Peak, so I believe 15, 20 miles before Snow Mesa. You're approaching Spring Creek Pass in a couple days. And we're coming up this mountain. We've just gotten down from the San Luis Ridge, and we climbed San Luis early that morning because we knew that would be storms. And it was pretty early in the afternoon, and this storm just starts rolling over the mountain. And we ended up having to, we were running from the storm. So, you know, you got your backpack on, and we do the lava run back down that trail. Fine. We were able to get to trees, so we found a pretty covered spot underneath some rock outcroppings and stuff, you know, squatted on the foam pads and waited the storm out. The lightning got within about a quarter mile of us, I think, if we were counting properly. And there were some guys ahead of us that were up the trail on the side of the mountain. They actually saw the lightning, which was a pretty crazy story. But, you know, then it cleared and we got to the top. And that was probably one of those eventful parts of the trip.
Yeah, running and chasing lightning off of the mountains. Mm-hmm. What was your favorite part of the trail? Like most beautiful, section?
Most beautiful section is 100% Spring Creek Pass to Mullis Pass. So basically Lake City to Silverton.
Yeah.
Kind of.
So describe that area a little bit.
It's all above tree line. So if you had storms, it'd be horrible. But we were super blessed with, we like hardly got hit by anything. We got hit by a little storm going into the Wamanuchi Wilderness, but you always see rain down when you go in the Wamanuchi Wilderness. That's just how it is. And, it cleared pretty quick. But it's above tree line, and you're in the high mountains, the San Juan, so you can see for so far, and down into these valleys, and the San Juans are just majestic.
Yeah,
and you can see it because you're above tree line, which is really cool. That's also the high point of the trail. Is in there. It's like 13,170.
Okay,
or maybe 270, something like that.
I know you got a faith background, and you said that you were reading through the Bible on this trip. Was there anything through this trip that either through your studies or just being out alone in nature that you really felt like you heard from God at all on this trip?
There was definitely a moment above Durango, getting to the top of the fire climb of the trail. It's all downhill, basically, the last 10 miles to Durango. And getting up there the night before the final day and just seeing it was like sunset. There's mist everywhere. It was beautiful. And I just kind of felt like God's out here. It wasn't like a deep spiritual experience or anything, but I could just kind of feel his presence.
It's kind of cool when you get out alone in the mountains. Like there's a lot of stories in the Bible where I feel like that's where God seems to show up. You think about Moses, or where Jesus went up on the hill and saw Moses appear. That seems to be a place to me. You're out and you get a chance to kind of see a bigger perspective.
Mm-hmm. So. Yeah, I think we're bombarded with so much information all the time that we don't have that mental quiet to feel God's presence until we kind of take a break and unplug and, just connect with something that isn't bombarding us with information all the time. Not that information is bad, but I think we need a break from it sometimes.
I've done a lot of vacations, even went down to, Central America, and just about everywhere now in the world, there's Wi-Fi signal. And you can't seem to escape it. When we were doing the Sargent's Mesa, like there's
nothing out there.
That was like the best thing ever. It was like, all right, there's no beeps on the phone, text or emails. How much of the trail was like that for you?
Most of it. There were sections where I had consistent signal, but I mean, I usually have my phone in airplane mode to save battery, so I think I missed most of the signal, which I'm thankful for. I don't think I used my phone with signal once for the first 6 days.
I think my takeaway is I feel like I just need an annual, wherever it is, find unplug and detox. No more vacations with phones. I think just being able to if you're gonna go, is what you're doing. If you were to talk to somebody, one of your peers that had a goal or a plan or a vision like this, what would you tell them?
Make a spreadsheet. That's you just plan it out and stick to the plan. I mean, it's very cliche advice. It's what everyone always says, but it works. And I think it's just consistency and planning that's how you get stuff done.
I love it. I love it. How did your perspective of what you could accomplish, or maybe did before this trip and after, change?
Well, like I said, I went into the trip with a pretty, I felt like I maybe had a 50-50 chance of it when I went in with the injury and stuff. And the injury was pretty much healed up, but I was worried it was going to flare back up. And I just had a lot of fear I wasn't going to make it. And I think pushing through and making it to the end, I'm not sure. It was a great realization of what your body's capable of recovery-wise, but also just mentally what you can do if you get up every day and move a step forward. I think it's hard to see sometimes things like school or work, the progress you're making. Sometimes it's not as visual progress, but with something like a trail, you see the mileage marker. You can see everything. You're like, oh, I had 300 miles. And so it's very clear, very marked progress, and you can see every step you're taking forward. Something very refreshing about that. You're able to see exactly what you're doing at you.
I don't think it's oftentimes enough that like we look back and we see where we come from. Sometimes it's just taking the next step and the next step. And yeah, I think taking that minute to, one, to track it, and two, to like celebrate, like, hey, yeah, we did that. What's next for you? What's on your bucket radar for?
In the short term, September, I'm doing the Pikes Peak Marathon, so I'm training for that right now. That's the short term thing. I'm not sure if I'm going to try to do another long effort next summer. I'm really not decided on that yet. I've thought about maybe trying to do. I always wanted to do the CDT, and after having done this, I'm thinking 6 months would maybe be a lot. I'm not sure, but I've thought about maybe doing CDT mountain bike route. Not just a similar length of time effort. It's about a month. I thought about that, or maybe the GMT, or I could see a lot of other stuff not long-term related happening in the future, but I haven't really decided what's in the books for next summer yet. So we'll see.
Well, I know you also graduated early.
Oh yeah,
this year, which again, like crazy. Congratulations, graduating.
Thank you.
Steve. I think you got
17.
17. Yeah. All right. So I think you got a bright future in you. So what's career wise or plan path for college and all that next for you?
Well, I'm starting at a community college, doing their general option program. That I'm hopefully going to do 2 years there and transfer to School of Mines and get my bachelor's there. Because you can do bit transfer track and red rocks. Engineering is the plan currently.
Well, cool. We're all rooting for you, Luke. So
thank you.
You got a good bright future ahead of you. Thanks for hopping in and hopping on the podcast, telling your story a little bit, inviting us along to do some. It was super good. All right. Well, next time we'll talk to you again.
Again.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Radical Hospitality Podcast. If you learned something new or you found this entertaining, please leave us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast platform. And if you have a project that you're excited about and you're ready to talk to an architect, visit us at therouteteam.com and schedule your free virtual consult with me or one of my team members. That's therouteteam.com.